The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network.
The airing of this program by this station is not an endorsement or recommendation by the station of the products or services discussed in the program. The station does not guarantee the results of any investments made by a listener to this program.
This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's Gary.
Happy Tuesday. So good to have you along. Tuesday, reverse mortgages. Well, sometimes you hear the word HECM. It's an abbreviation or acronym, HECM, Home Equity Conversion Mortgage. And what I have learned over decades of dealing with people with estates, with people, getting older, needing money as they get older, dealing with debt, managed debts, mortgages, that type of thing. I have come to love the home equity conversion mortgage. And I'm just thrilled to have Shanne. I keep getting Ken and Shane backwards. Sorry. I love having Shanne on the air with us because he answers all the questions that we need to have answered. Because a lot of times it's confusing. It's like, well, should you do a reverse mortgage or not? How can a HECM help me and all that? Well, we've got Shanne today, and he's going to answer those questions because I've got a bunch of questions for you today, Shanne. But I want you to tell people where you are today.
Well, thanks, Gary. I'm happy to be joining you from a mortgage conference right outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. Here, just got in last night and here for the week. And I am here to, learn more about, how to be a better mortgage advisor and find out more ways to find out what's important to my clients and what their needs are and how to create an even better customer experience for them.
Well, and I'm always thrilled by that because when you told me, Gary, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be in studio today. I'm going to be out at a mortgage conference. I went, dude, that's exactly where we want you to be, learning more of your trade so you can provide your expert advice. So I really appreciate it. To get a hold of Shanne, guys, there is one number you need to know when you're talking about mortgages, any kind, whether it's a conventional mortgage, reverse mortgage, interest only, whatever's happening in the mortgage arena. That's his number is 858-683-1716. All right. So Shanne, I want to start out there's so many like myths, you say reverse mortgage and people go, oh no, evil. But it's like, that's insane. It couldn't be further from the truth. Help us to kind of dispel some of these common myths about HECMs.
Yeah. So 3 myths I wanted to talk about here real quick with you, Gary, is, first off, I think the most common one I always hear is, oh, if I do a reverse mortgage, I'm going to lose my home. I'm not going to own it anymore. The bank will own it. And that's not the case. That's something that was back 40, 50 years ago when these first came out. But now that FHA and HUD are involved, they're just a lien against the property like any other mortgage. In fact, you have less of a chance of losing your home with a reverse mortgage than a traditional loan because there are no payments to miss, and therefore you wouldn't go into foreclosure because you can't make a payment. So that's number one. Number two, I always hear is, oh, if you do a reverse mortgage, there won't be any equity left over. You're not, your heirs aren't going to inherit anything. And that's not the case either. Most of the scenarios that we run through when we're doing our projections out into the future, and that's one of the things that we do is we show amortization tables and we show what it's going to look like 10 years, 15 years, 30 years down the road. And in most cases, because San Diego and the surrounding areas have such a strong appreciation and equity position, usually there's going to be substantial equity left over. Now, there's not going to be as much as there may have been otherwise, but you're now using these funds in a way that you would not have been able to before, and maybe you're not carrying as much debt as you would have with credit cards or other means. And the last one is that they're very costly, and reverse mortgages, HECMs are more expensive than a traditional loan. But when you weigh that against the other options, and that's one of the things I know we're going to talk about later today is the use of credit card debt and the rates that are so high with those and other expenses that come along with not using a reverse mortgage as an option, those will far outweigh the cost of what a reverse mortgage would be.
Okay. And those are definitely the myths that I hear all the time. And I'm glad we're talking about it on the air, because it kind of gets the message out more broadly, because I'm doing that one by one. I talked to somebody about, have you considered a reverse mortgage, because you've got so much equity on your home, and yet you're just really struggling because your Social Security isn't going up as fast as your expenses. Your home needs repairs, and what are you going to do? You're going to let it fall down around you, or you're going to live in this home that just really, really is such sad shape, and yet you're sitting on, $500, $600, $800, $1 million in equity. And so I'm always like, no, you're not going to lose your home. No, you don't lose all of your equity, and they're not that expensive. You've got to look at your options. And that's one thing I will say about you, Shanne, that I really appreciate the most, is that you are willing to get in there with the client if they want to bring along one of their kids or their financial coach, kind of as an advisor to help them have a second set of eyes and ears, that you're willing to do that. And I really, really appreciate that. Yeah. To get on Ken's calendar.
I just sat down.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just sat down on Monday with a family, the son and daughter-in-law, along with the parents, to go through options. They're looking to move down from Northern California. We're looking at a reverse mortgage as one option. We're looking at a traditional purchase loan as another option. But we met together as a family to discuss all of that together.
See, that's terrific. And it's like, because if you get somebody like you that you do all of these things. I mean, I've dealt with mortgage advisors where they just go, "What? We don't do reverse mortgages. We only are conventional, traditional mortgages." They can't give all the options. They're not giving them. They're saying, "Well, here are your mortgage options." But it's like, wait a minute, what about the other stuff? And that's we appreciate. So to get on get on Shanne's calendar, it's 858-683-1716. If you don't want to call, you can text that number, 858-683-1716. And in fact, Shanne has said that he will continue to give away his free HECM guide if you text the word reverse to that same number, 858-683-1716. Okay. So let's say then you give the options and they're thinking, okay, Shanne, here's my problem. I've got some credit card debt. It's like the regular, it's not the default rate of 29%, but it's, this typical 19, 20, 21% credit card debt. I can't manage the payments. I've seen this a lot. So then they get another credit card sent to them because the credit card company is trying to be super nice. They send them another one with a $5,000 or $10,000 limit, and that gets charged up. And then instead of doing something to help them by lowering the rates, they send them another credit card. And next thing you know, they're 10, 20, 30 grand in debt. And then they run into medical because they're trying to pay their medical with their credit cards. And it just gets to be this explosion. And I know a lot of seniors, and Shanne, I'm sure you've seen this, where they're so embarrassed. They don't want to tell their kids. They're kind of embarrassed that they have this money going on, all this debt, and they don't know what to do. So help us figure out, is it possible to get a home equity conversion loan to pay off credit card debt? That's what we want to talk about. We got
questions. This is the Word on Wealth.
Sorry about that. Totally my fault.
Thank you, Law.
Okay.
Gary's here to give you
Look, there's two different red markers. I'm looking at the 215.
inheritance and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecos and the Pecos Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecos has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecos Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecos is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecos.com. That's Ken Pecos, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Tired of You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're listening to The Word on Wealth. We've got Shanne Sleder. He is our mortgage expert and mortgage editor here on The Word on Wealth. So he has all of your mortgage questions. He right now is at a mortgage conference out of town. So he's doing this from the mortgage conference, which means he's learning more about this stuff so that he can perfect your mortgage needs and make sure he gives you all the information that you need. I asked Shanne about what I can use a reverse mortgage for. And the big thing, I'm kind of telling a scenario that I've heard several times, many times. Credit card debt gets higher and higher. Medical debts are being paid with credit cards. Credit card companies really don't care, and they send you another credit card so you can pay medical bills. And a lot of times people just, they get buried in debt and they're embarrassed. They don't want to talk to family. They don't want to talk to friends, and they just sit there and suffer in silence. And I asked Shanne if he had a solution with that, with the HECM.
Yeah. So, what you're seeing, I'm seeing as well. We see that credit card debt is at an all-time high right now in the United States. And at the same time, we have the highest interest rates in the last 25 years on that credit card debt, around 21% on average. And so what's happening is, I'm seeing seniors who are financing their monthly living expenses on credit cards, not just big ticket items or if they have an emergency purchase, but they just are not making enough. They don't have enough income coming in compared to what they have going out every month. And so they're financing their living expenses on credit cards. And with the use of a home equity conversion mortgage, we can not only eliminate that credit card debt, you're saving that monthly payment, we can hopefully provide additional monthly income for you so that you do not have to take on additional credit card debt. You have enough money to pay for your living expenses. And if you do have a mortgage on the property, because a reverse mortgage can be used both on a free and clear home and also on a home that has a mortgage, the mortgage would have to be paid off. But what would happen is that would free up additional cash flow each month because you no longer have to make a mortgage payment. That mortgage payment could be used to cover your living expenses that you have. It could be used to pay down the credit card even more if you need to, if we don't have enough that we can take out through the reverse mortgage. So it gives a lot of options on how we can get rid of that additional expense every month with credit cards by using a reverse mortgage.
When you explain it that way, it just seems so clear that everybody with equity in their home, if you can't survive handily and comfortably on your retirement income and you're sitting on a home here in the San Diego area with equity, it just really makes sense to figure this out. One of the things that you had talked about before, which really kind of gave me chills, was you were talking about, you get somebody that's like they have a lot of equity. They don't want to do the reverse mortgage thing. They maybe have some credit card debt, but their expenses are starting to go up. And now they get almost into a position where it's like they're starting to lose capacity, like not really capable of making decisions. And now all of a sudden it's like, you waited too late. Because I'm the guy that says, I'm screaming loud as I can, saying, do not wait too late. You've got to make a decision on these. But you were saying, if somebody got into a reverse mortgage, that if the house value increases, then the home equity, that the HECM credit line can actually get higher too. Is that how that works?
That's correct. So one of the options with a reverse mortgage, with a home equity conversion mortgage, is the ability to have a line of credit tied to it, so that once we take care of the credit card debt that you have, you now have additional money available that can fit in that line of credit. If you don't need it right away, you don't have to draw upon it. No interest is being charged because you haven't used it yet. But if there is that future need for any reason at all, for in-home care, for medical expenses, for renovation, whatever it may be, you can draw that money out. But the great thing is that while you have that line of credit, if you establish it early enough, there is an internal growth rate tied to it where every year you now have a larger line of credit that you can borrow against. The growth rate is tied to whatever the current interest rate is. So the fact that rates are a little higher right now are actually better for those people who have low mortgage balances but have very large lines of credit that they can borrow against, because that line of credit is growing even more rapidly. And one of the things that I hear a lot of times from clients that are looking at mortgage options right now is, oh, well, the interest rates are so high. We're in the low 7, mid 7% range. But yet I look and I see they've got $40,000 worth of credit card debt at 21%. And so, yes, the rates are higher than they have been. But when you compare the option of paying what you are paying towards credit cards and not having that balance go down and it's still growing, it's a very good trade-off. And the nice thing with the reverse mortgages, most of the ones that I do are adjustable. So as rates start to come down over the next couple of years, the interest on that reverse mortgage is going to come down as well, and you're not going to have as much charged against your reverse mortgage.
I had no idea. That's wild. So that you can, the interest rate can actually change depending on the economic. If it gets better and rates go lower, then you can refinance or change that rate. That's terrific. Learning more about HECMs is really, I don't know. To me, it's exciting because I really see a lot of people that have been in their homes for a long time, And a very common scenario that I see, and I want your response on this, Shane, is I'll see people that'll say, you know what, mom is going to move into an assisted living because she's just really, we can't keep up with her needs. And, you know, she needs somebody to watch her 24 hours a day. She's owned the home for like, you know, 50 years. Dad died 20 years ago. There's gobs of equity in the house. And they say, we're going to sell the house. We're going to put that money in the bank and we're going to use that to take care of mom. What's a better suggestion?
Well, what I found, and you've probably found the same in talking to so many seniors, is that they really prefer to stay in the house that they've known for the last 30, 40 years. Their health ends up being better. Their longevity ends up being better. A lot of times when seniors are moved, especially if it's against their will, into a retirement community or a assisted living facility, their health actually declines and they, many times pass away much quicker. And so with the use of reverse mortgage, if they do want to stay in the property, you can tap into the equity to pay for the long-term care, pay for the in-home care, whatever the options are that you need, and be able to keep them in their current surroundings where they're used to where everything is. They, maybe they've got a yard they can go out and do a little yard work in and gardening and just be in that surrounding that's going to keep them in a better mental state. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think one of the blessings that I see in working with seniors with home equity conversion mortgages is the fact that I'm helping relieve this stress and this burden that I see on their shoulders. And they come in and many times they're downtrodden and they just don't see any hope in getting out of the situation. And then we put them through this process. We explain everything. They're able to get out from underneath that weight of the debt and the lack of liquidity that they have. And all of a sudden they come back to life and they've got energy and they're out doing things and they're going out with their friends and they're maybe, going to a movie or going out to dinner, things that they weren't able to do before and able to actually enjoy their life. And I think that's one of the things that I love the most about working with this demographic is the fact that I'm able to help change their lives for the better.
That's so great. It is interesting that, they are in a position where they think I have no money in the bank. My Social Security is not really that high. I've got a small pension. I'm just barely surviving, hanging in there. I really can't afford to do anything. Life is really kind of winding down. And then you go, but wait a minute, you're sitting on all this equity. Let's figure out how to tap into it and new life, available money. You can enjoy your life better because what's it all about? The one thing about being able to tap the equity in the home equity conversion mortgage is if you do sell the house that a senior's had for a long time, that money is going to be taxed because they only get a $250,000 capital gains exclusion. So it's like you end up selling the house. This is a sad story, but I met with a lady at her home and I said, they said, we need money. We're going to sell the house. We've got to put mom into assisted living. The mom was saying, yes, that's okay. Let's do this. And they decided they would sell the home. And I said, you can't sell the home. You've got to get into something like a reverse mortgage because that way you can pull the equity out and be able to afford it and not pay the capital gains tax. The house was very, very valuable. Well, they ended up selling the home and writing a check to the federal and state government for something like $400,000. And it made me sick. I went, you got to be kidding me. People talk about reverse mortgages being expensive. That's not expensive. What's expensive is paying all that tax, and you don't need to do that.
Right. Well, and what I've seen that, this program really becomes real to the clients I work with, to the listeners when they see how it can change their life on an individual basis. I mean, many times we can talk about all of these different scenarios, but all that the client needs to do, the listener needs to do is just reach out and let's look at how this works for them one-on-one.
1 minute.
Increases their cash flow and reduces their stress and, allows them to have some, freedom in retirement. And then that's when it becomes real to them and they can start seeing how their life can change and the benefits that they can see from it. So, I would just say if anyone who's listening sees that as something that they could benefit from, that I would love for them to reach out and just schedule a one-on-one time with me.
All right. Call him 858-683-1716, 858-683-1716, or you can text reverse to that number and get your free HECM guide, 858-683-1716. Shanne, it's been awesome. Thanks for being at that mortgage conference. Learn lots, and we really appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week right here on the Word on Wealth. Thanks, Shanne.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, that's Shanne Sleder, you guys. Reverse mortgage HECM expert. He's our mortgage advisor on the Word on Wealth. 858-683-1716. Don't touch that dial. I'll be back in just a second.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
Have today's economic conditions and high inflation made it difficult for you in retirement? Hi, I'm Shanne Sleder, the mortgage advisor on the Word on Wealth. You hear me with Gary Quackenbush, answering your questions every Tuesday at 2 p.m. For over 20 years in San Diego, I've specialized in home financing solutions for seniors as they get older and their families. If you qualify, a reverse mortgage allows you to convert part of your home equity into either a lump sum, line of credit, or much needed monthly income. You're insured and protected against ever owing more than the value of your home. And you don't have to sell your home, give up title, or get new conventional mortgage financing with monthly payments. The program is designed to make it easier for seniors to qualify. I will walk you through every step of the process. To receive a free reverse mortgage guide by mail, text REVERSE to 858-683-1716, or give me a call on my direct number, 858-683-1716.
Licensed with the state of California. NMLS ID number 239958. DRE number 01174642.
This broadcast outreach, the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST, gqlaw.com.
Well, that was fun. Always love having Shanne Sleder with us on the air. I want you to keep his number. If you have a family that's in a situation where they're sitting on equity in their home, maybe they're paying on a mortgage that's really making it just difficult for them to get through the month. or maybe you're helping them pay their mortgage because they're having trouble getting through the month, and yet they're sitting on enough equity to maybe get a home equity conversion mortgage to pay off the regular mortgage, so there's no payments left. I just suggest you get an appointment with Shanne and figure out what the options are. Let him explain it to you. There's not going to be any cost or obligation. Get your free consultation, 858-683-1716. Another way to get a hold of him, his website is San Diego Mortgage News, like newspaper, San Diego Mortgage News.com. You can find out a little bit more about them there and get in contact with them there. If you called my office and you said, gosh, I can't remember what was Shanne's phone number or what was the deal, we will obviously give you that number. You can easily call me and get that. But the mortgage guide is pretty cool. It's the you text the word reverse to 858-683-1716, and then you can get your free HECM guide. And it gives you some information to start out. Say, okay, here's how HECMs work, and then let Shanne get an appointment, have the time with you to explain to you advantages, disadvantages, because they're not for everybody. We're admitting that they're not for everybody, and he's not going to put you into one if you shouldn't be in one. And that's why we have him as a mortgage advisor on the Word on Wealth. Let's talk about a case. This is the parents, so mom and dad, they decided to use a life estate deed on their house rather than do a trust. Because there's this thing in California, it was invented, it was years ago, not 10. I can't even remember. I don't like them, but wow, I already told you my opinion. Way to go. But there's this thing called a life estate deed where instead of doing a trust or a will or anything like that, you just change your deed. So it says, yeah, when my wife, when husband and wife are both dead, then the house goes to the 4 children. Okay. And you think, oh, good. I avoid probate. I avoid, doing a trust. I avoid doing my will. I don't have to think about it. I don't need a successor trustee. All is well and all that stuff. What are the challenges with that? Well, number one, what happened here was with the life estate deed, when dad died, now there's only one person on the life estate deed, and the problem is we have 2 signatures on it. So mom is stuck. What can she do? She can't get out of the life estate deed because dad's gone. She's going to now have to go to probate to get it back out, because life estate deeds are kind of tricky. But it's like they're great for the exact scenario that if it plays out just exactly like you want, you can stack this here and this piece here, and it lines up here, and it's exactly that way, and they both die at the same time. It's great. They don't need the house anymore, so it can pass to the kids without probate and all that stuff. Great. Problem is going to now, it's just a million problems. It now is owned by the kids. Okay. If they don't live there, it's going to be, the property taxes will be reassessed. If the kids live in different states, now you got the 4 kids. And if they want to sell the house, they're going to have to figure out how the 4 of them can sell the house and all that stuff. And, but you understand what we're depending on is mom and dad died together or pretty close together. So we don't have to worry about, one person falling off the deed, and it's death. Okay. What if the issue came up of incapacity? Mom's incapacitated. She can't sign the deed. Dad could, but he's not the only owner. What if they're both incapacitated? Now we're kind of stuck also. The things like this, the shortcut stuff, like a life estate deed, or even sometimes a beneficiary designation, they're little shortcuts. And yes, they work for the purpose they're intended. What they are not intended to do is deal with incapacity. I like living trust because instead of putting the house in a life estate or a life estate deed, you put the house into a living trust. So then if you and your husband become incapacitated, then your successor trustee can manage your money and pay for your care and pay for your helpers and pay for the property and do whatever they need to do because they are your successor trustee. And that's during incapacity. If your husband dies and you're the sole survivor, then, well, of course, you'd be the sole survivor. As the survivor, if you still have capacity, you can still continue to, spend your money and manage your money and do all that. But if you are incapacitated, now who's going to take care of things because your husband's gone? So I use a trust so that your trust somebody can take over. So if both husband and wife have capacity, they are in charge. If only one has capacity, that one is in charge. If neither of you have capacity because you're either dead or incapacitated, then your successor trustee steps in, takes care of things. The problem that I had a while ago with a life estate deed was that we had to go get, to get money from the house, we had to go get a conservatorship over the finances so that we could get money from the house to pay for mom's care. If it were in a trust, we wouldn't have had to do that. But it's the incapacity thing. And I know it's not 100%, but 70% of us become incapacitated for at least 3 months, at least 90 days before we die. And what I've seen, it's like when you're incapacitated, some people are incapacitated for months, sometimes it's years, but your assets are stuck. If you can't sign the deed, it's stuck. We can't get a reverse mortgage. We can't refinance. We can't even sell. Somebody has to have that authority. And then we end up going to get authority. We go to probate court and get a conservatorship. They're expensive. They're slow. There's a lot of moving parts. They're very invasive. There's not a lot of privacy. You got to get a doctor's note. You got to get the private investigator. The court investigator visits and talks with you. There's an appointed attorney for the one that's going to be the conservatee. There's just a lot of work that you can avoid if you have a trust. So if you ask me, Gary, do you think trusts are worth it? Absolutely. 100%. Yes. Every person, if you have a house in California, you should have a trust. If you have children, you should have a trust. Okay. If you have a spouse, you should have a trust. Okay. People that don't need a trust, you're single, you have no real assets, you don't have a home, a house, so you can do a will. And the will says, when I die, everything goes to my friend, my sister, my brother, my dad. But the will, everyone needs to have a will. Every single person in California needs to have a will, period. And most of the people in California need a living trust to go along with. Okay. Second case. Mom died 8 years ago. Dad died 2 years ago. Okay, that's pretty typical. Mom died 8 years ago. Dad died 2 years ago. The sister is the successor trustee, daughter of mom and dad, and it's been all quiet. How long ago did dad die? 2 years ago. There are 3 children. There's a house. There's an investment account with $250,000 in it. There's an annuity worth $300,000, and there's life insurance worth $80,000. Okay. So what's going to happen? We have a house. It's been sitting there for 2 years. Who's in it? Well, if sister's in the house, is she paying rent? Because if mom and dad are both gone, you can't live in the house for free unless the trust, if the house is in a trust, and this one it was, unless the trust specifically allows that person to live in the house rent-free.
2 minutes.
You cannot live in a house rent-free. It's not allowed because that causes a reduction in the value of the property. It causes waste. It's free, taking advantage of the trust. You can't do it. So if you're going to live in the house, you got to pay rent. And even if mom and dad said, it's okay, baby, you can live there for the rest of your life for free. You can live there for 2 years after we die for free. If mom and dad say that, it doesn't really hold any water because it has to be it has to be documented. It's a real property transaction. It's a transaction that's happening after you pass away. So there's no force or effect for mom saying, yeah, go ahead and live there for free. So if daughter is living there, for example, in this case, it was sister who is the successor trustee. She's living in the home and it's been 2 years and there's been no report. So what you're going to do as a beneficiary is you can get somebody like me and we write a letter to the sister and say, hey, sister, successor trustee, we are under the understanding you are the successor trustee. And under California Probate Code
minute.
section, whatever, you are required to send a copy of the trust to all the beneficiaries. I don't have a copy of the trust and I'd like one immediately. You're also to provide an accounting and you haven't done that. This is a demand for an accounting. We need that within 60 days. And in the interim, we want a basic asset list. Okay. If you can provide all that, the basic asset list within a couple of weeks. So you kind of push in that direction. We're trying to say, here's your job, do it. Because if they don't, what are they doing with the money? What does she do with the house? She's living there for free. You can't let that happen because the asset may go away. We're going to continue talking about that right here on the Word on Wealth. If you have questions or you want me to help you out being a beneficiary or a trustee, the number is 855-500-TRUST, 855-500-TRUST. More coming up next on the Word on Wealth. We're going to talk about more asset distribution and the successor trustee in this case. We'll be right back.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
All right. If you want my help, now's the time to call 855-500-TRUST, 855-500-TRUST. Okay. So mom died 8 years ago. Dad died 2 years ago. The sister successor trustee doing both jobs. She's being the sister and she's being the successor trustee. She's living in the house. She live in the house and she's not paying rent as far as we know. Maybe she is. We don't know. But she's never told us anything. Everything is all quiet. So now you as a beneficiary getting a little nervous, like, well, is mom, is sister, is she the only one getting money? Are you as a beneficiary, have you been disinherited? Why are you not finding out information? Because even if you're disinherited, the successor trustees legal obligation is to provide a notification to all beneficiaries within 60 days of the date of death supposed to provide a copy of the terms of the trust, which is an explanation of, here's how you get, right? So you get that notification. You have 120 days from that notification. You have 120 days to request a copy of the trust. And once you get that copy, you have 60 more days or the rest of the 120 days, depending on which one is later, to review the trust and see if you want to ask questions or object or something. Okay. But that's required. The successor trustee needs to send that out. What if they don't? If they don't, they're in violation of their duty as a successor trustee. Probate court judges that are the ones that control trusts and trust assets. They do not take kindly to successor trustees not doing their job. And so what can be done is you can ask the court for removal of that successor trustee. So if you're a trustee and you're hearing this, it's like, I could get kicked out. Yeah, it's a volunteer job, but if you step into it and you start doing it, you're supposed to act, and you have taken that responsibility on yourself. So just get it done right. Just do your job, and you won't know how to do it, successor trustees, unless you've done it before. And everybody has never done it. You as a beneficiary, if you don't know what's going on, that's because you've never been the beneficiary of your mom and dad's estate before. Okay, we don't get practice at this. The only people that get practice at being a successor trustee or being a good beneficiary, the only people that really know what's going on are people like me, attorneys. This is what we do for a living. I've seen it hundreds of times. I know what a beneficiary should be getting and what they can expect. I know what the successor trustee's job is. And it's not like you're being a nasty person in trying to get your sister, in this case, to be a good trustee and provide information. That's her job. I mean, it's money that mom and dad left you. And if you're not seeing it, there could be a big problem. Okay. So, and I'm not talking about jump on it right away. And, 2 weeks after mom dies, you're demanding your money. That's not the way it works. But if everything is quiet, you need to get going. If you wait longer, and the disasters are trying to be nice, you're really busy, life gets busy, you feel bad because your sister's been really busy, she's upset because mom and dad, they passed away, now she's dealing with that, she's living in an empty home now. But we still have to do the legal stuff. We have to move forward. And so sometimes we have to be a little more forceful legally and say to the trustee, you need to do your job or step aside. And as the trustee, you can step aside. If there's nobody in line behind you, if there's nobody named in the trust, then possibly the trust would allow you to name someone else. So if you have if your brother's being super aggressive and saying, gosh dang it, you're a terrible trustee, I want my money now, then you could say, you know what? Why don't you be the trustee? Maybe you should resign and let your brother do it. And then you can hold his feet to the fire, because it's a lot of work to be a trustee. Just suggestions. Well, the other thing as a trustee, what you have authorization to do is you have authorization to get into like the investment account that's in the trust, because you're the trustee, you have access to that. What about an annuity? And the annuity says, when mom and dad both die, this $300,000 annuity, it'll give beneficiaries, supposed to, they better. And it'll say, when we have both died, then it's going to go to our 3 kids in equal shares. That doesn't require a trustee. That requires that whoever is the beneficiary, or if you think you're a beneficiary, you contact the annuity company and say, what do you need? Dad and mom passed away. I know there's an annuity. I'm a beneficiary. What do you need from me? And they'll say, death certificate, ID, some other things so they can know really who you are. And then you submit that, and then you can get paid your share out of that annuity. Same thing with life insurance. Same old thing, right? If it says a beneficiary are my kids, kid A, kid B, and kid C, then it doesn't matter which kid goes there first. The life insurance company will say, well, who are you? Well, I'm my dad's son, and he's deceased, and I'm a beneficiary of his life insurance. And they look at it and they confirm it. You get your 1/3. And they're not going to give the money to your brother and sister unless they do the same thing. So if there's a beneficiary designation, you can go and look it up. The way that happens sometimes is you don't know whether there's a beneficiary designation. So you go into, you call the life insurance company or the investment company and say, okay, I'm trying to figure out who's the beneficiary on this account. And they're going to say, we're not going to tell you. Like, well, why not? Because if you're not the beneficiary, we're not going to talk to you. So the question isn't who's the beneficiary. The question is, am I a beneficiary? Here's my dad's and mom's death certificates. Here's my ID. Am I a beneficiary of this annuity? And they look it up and go, actually, no. Can you tell me who it is? Actually, no. Is it a person or persons, or is it the family trust? And they'll say persons. So that means it's probably your brother and sister, and you can get them to do the same thing. But they're not going to give you information about any other person because they've got these HIPAA disclosure rules and all that kind of stuff. So, but there are ways to do that. If there's an investment account and you're a beneficiary, then you don't have to wait for your sister to go there and give them instructions to divide it up. As a beneficiary, typically you can contact them and say, I want my money. And then you can go through that process of getting that transferred. And that's a big help to the trustee too. Take some of the load off their mind. If you have issues with these things, with the trust distribution, if you're a beneficiary and you don't know what's going on, which sometimes is a really scary thought. Sometimes if it's all quiet, that is not good. Just keep in mind that under California law, when someone dies, it's the second person that dies, right? Mom and dad both gone. Then the successor trustee, whoever it is named in their trust, is required within 60 days to notify the beneficiaries of the terms of the trust. And they're supposed to do that by sending out a probate code notification within 60 days. If they don't, that's their first strike against them. They're supposed to deposit the will. They're supposed to literally take the will and send it down and file it with the California probate court that's local to the parent that died. And so that it becomes a court recorded record and doesn't say anything if they have a trust in conjunction. And the will is just kind of the helper will, called a pour over will. That still gets recorded, filed with the court. So somebody can get it and go, oh, wow, who gets all the money? And it says trustee of the family trust. Then it's like, oh, that was disappointing. But you want to just stay on it. And if things are sitting and they're too quiet, if they've already started and it's quiet, that's one thing. Probably it's going to require some prompting before assets get too depleted, for sure. And then if you've heard nothing, that's wrong. Even if you're disinherited, they're required to notify you. Okay. If you haven't been notified and it's been years and there's property or there's a rental or something like that, somebody's living in that house for free. Somebody's collecting the rents. What about the investments? You've got to check that stuff out. I think when your parents leave money to you, you got to figure out why is it not coming to you and get your questions answered. If that's something I can help you with, of course you can give me a call. Another thing you can do is go to my website, GQ, like Gary Quackenbush, gqlaw.com. And there's a couple books on there. Living Trust Basics is the one about, kind of basically how trusts work. There's also one on being self-employed, like should you be a corporation or an LLC? That is for free. And there's another book about if you have tax issues, tax problems or something. There's another book that talks about how to solve them. And these are 20-page books, 8.5 by 11. So it's not a big, long read. Not a very exciting read, just information on my website, gqlaw.com. While you're at it, if you want a consultation, just go to the contact form and just put in there that you want a meeting with me, and that'll come to the team and they will contact you to set up an appointment. Or you just call directly. My gosh, 855-500-TRUST. Tomorrow on the Word on Wealth, I am excited to have Ken Pecos. He's our real estate guru, our real estate expert, our real estate advisor, and he will be on with us tomorrow. Okay, then we've got Anthony Wright, our money guy, on Thursday. And on Friday, we are so excited. On Friday, we have Scott Phelps. And we had Scott on about 6 weeks ago. He's with A&M Resources. This guy is, I'm not going to spoil it, but you need to listen to Scott. He talks about getting young adults ready to have a successful marriage. So it's like, really, that happens on the radio, that there's actually people out there that are saying, hey, here's statistically, it shows evidence on how to get better prepared for a successful and healthy marriage. We're going to be talking about that with Scott Phelps on Friday. So there you go. Ken Pecos on Wednesday, Anthony Wright on Thursday, and Scott Phelps on Friday. That's the lineup. I hope you guys hang in there with us. Anytime you miss a show, you can go to any podcast, Google Podcasts, iTunes, all those, and just look up Word on Wealth, Quackenbush, because there's only two, there's another Word on Wealth somewhere in some other part of the world, but Word on Wealth, Gary Quackenbush, and you can look up my episodes and you can listen to some of these again. You can speed through them and say, I just want to hear the last part. I want to hear whatever, but we're trying to put those online. They're available every day that we have our radio show. So good to have you along. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll be talking to you tomorrow right here on the Word on Wealth. Call me. Go to my website, gqlaw.com, gqlaw.com. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Have a good one.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions